I had a baby when I was 18, and that kind of limited what I could do creatively, because I actually wanted to go away far and I needed my support here at home. So I decided to go and do law. I had just turned 30, and I'd lost my dad a few years before. I was feeling low. I just didn't know what to do with myself. February 22, I handed in my notice because I had enough work to kind of keep me going, and I was like satisfied that I was going to do okay. A year of no stable salary, it kind of spurs you on, and you're like, you know that it's there and you know you can do it. Keeping at it and just keep going. My name is Tanice Samuels, and I'm a content creator.
Were you a creative person when you were younger, or like what were you like whenever you were younger?
Yeah, I really, really was. So I was into music and art and drama. Actually thought like one of my professions was going to be based in one of those areas, and it just didn't work out that way. So, but now I've like come round. It's come like full circle, and I'm back to creative. It's just amazing.
What did you study in uni, and what were you thinking about yourself when you were younger?
I had a baby when I was 18, and that kind of limited what I could do creatively, because I actually wanted to go away far and I needed my support here at home. So I decided to go and do law, which suits my like personality anyway, because I loved it. And I worked in legal for just under 10 years. It would have just been 10 years, like soon. And yeah, so it's like a complete change from the corporate to creative.
So like whenever you got pregnant 18 and then you studied law and you became a lawyer, like how did you balance that all, and what were you feeling?
Wow. If this happened now, I wouldn't be doing it. I don't think I would have the stamina to be able to do it. But then I think what pushed me through was like people thought I wasn't going to do it. So I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to, do well for me and my child, and like not be, all the teachers thought I was going to drop out of school, and they were just waiting for that day. And I was just like, no, I'm staying here until I was in school on the Thursday and went into hospital on Friday to have a look in, and then had one Saturday, and then did my first A level on the Monday. And I like that those few months, when I look back on it, like it was it had to have been adrenaline that kept me going through it all. But yeah, when I look back now, it's just crazy. I don't think as a grown-up, I thought I was a grown-up then. I was not. But I don't think as a grown-up I would be able to do it now.
But you obviously also had a really like intense mindset to push through. Like, where did that come from? Was that from family or just that drive within you?
Yeah, just family and like my genes, I guess. My mom and dad are both, drilled into me. Like I can do whatever I want, and they supported me the whole time. So I did it for me and Logan at that time, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like, I know I was doing it to like show people that I could, but at the same time I wanted to set us up, and I didn't like want to, be struggling or stuff. So.
And then so what was it like when you first became a lawyer?
Stressful, fast paced, but also fun, as in like when you won arguments or like, got to negotiate things. It's great, it's thrilling. But I suppose it was like only one part of my personality that I was able to use in that job. As such, I wasn't able to be creative at all. So that kind of restricted me a bit. But it was fantastic. It just turns out that it wasn't for me.
When did you meet your husband and what was that process like?
We were actually friends when we were 14, and we knew each other, so we grew up like knowing each other, who each other were and stuff, and chatting. And then we were in uni one day, and I did law, he did IT of some sort. He's a developer. And we were just walking down the hall and like saw each other and we're like, oh hey, like we hadn't seen each other in years. And I was 21 and I was moving house, and he was like, oh, I'll help you move and stuff. So like it was like a friendship then turned into dating, and it was great. But because I had Logan, so Logan at the time is what, 2, and he, you know, he's only a year older than me, but he took everything on too, but it was pretty chill.
And when did you know that he was the person you wanted to marry?
When I was 21, I asked my mom and dad, could he come to Jamaica, like my present. I was like, they were like, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, okay, can you pay for my boyfriend to come to Jamaica for a month? And then they were like, no. Like, basically, even though I'd already had a child, I didn't really have boyfriends like around, like as in like my dad was like, nope, no boys. So they said yes because I was 21 and I was an adult when I already had a child. So when we were out there, him and my dad just got on so well, and he loved Jamaica, and then I just saw like the way, like the way he was with, because it's a completely different life. Mm-hmm. And like we weren't living in like luxury hotels or anything, so like he got to see the rough bits and the fancy bits. Mm-hmm. And he just loved it all, and he would go back tomorrow. So yeah, it just, and he was so good with Logan as well, so that just came together.
What kind of vision did you guys have for your life at that point?
To be honest, I didn't really have. I was like, I'm just doing law, I'll finish and then get a job. And then he was doing IT. And actually, when we were in Jamaica for the first trip, the company that he works for now reached out to him and was like, oh, we'd love to meet up when you come back. And he still works for them. So that then gave him his career, and like he just loved it and he's fallen into it. And it's just like, but he's very creative too, so it's like nice to, he like, gets me all the gadgets and like the lights and the anything I need, to help me, to help my setup become, that's what he was the one who like helped my setup become from like a hobby to professional, because he was like all interested in it too. And yeah, it was great.
So that leads nicely into, you're working in law for 10 years. How did you then get into what you're doing now? What was what was happening in your life, and like why did you want to do something like that?
So I had just turned 30 and I wasn't feeling very well mentally. I'd lost my dad a few years before, and it really impacted my life. My mental health, my physical health, they're all linked. So like, that was a massive thing. And I was trying to, grief, I feel like takes a long time to go through, and you go like up and down in waves. And it's like never something that you actually get used to. You just have to like, I always say this, ride the wave. So when I had a point in my life where I was having migraines like every other day, like as in bed bound migraines. I was feeling low. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was sleeping all the time. It just wasn't great. And I took like an extended time off from work in law, and it was just like, I'm going to focus on myself, try and get myself to a place where I can get through all of this. And it got to the point where I was like, right, okay, getting up and getting dressed and like going for coffee, or like going to meet JP while he was in work in town in the city. And we were sitting in Established, and I was like scrolling through my photos on my phone and like taking pictures of my trainers and stuff. And he was just like, I can't believe you've got so many pictures in there, like post them. And I was like, no, too embarrassed. Like I wouldn't do that because I have my personal Instagram account. And I was like, no, I don't think I could do that. And he was like, just do it. So we set up a new one. And I was like, well, we'll set this new one up that no one follows. So no one knows who I am. And start posting on there. So that day I did. And then that was in like February. And
What year is it?
2020. So that was just before COVID. So it was like February, just literally right before actually. And he was like, just post, just do it. And my friends have been like before saying, oh, I think you should be like fashion or like do something like beauty or something. And I was like, right, okay. Just always pass it off because I was like, no, I need a corporate salary. Like this is my 9 to 5. Like, I need to be stable. And then so posting on Instagram, like the things that I had already became my hobby, and it became a way for me to like focus my creative, like if I was feeling down, I would say it on Instagram or like create some kind of like moody pictures or whatever. But I was able to say it through clothes and makeup and basically my style. So yeah, it was just a hobby and I was just doing it. I went back to work and was doing both, just like posting just for me still, because that was like my outlet. And then a few months later, a brand reached out and they were like, oh, we would like to, work with you. And I was like, what do you mean work? Like, what does this entail? And then I did like a campaign with them. And that was like me just self-shooting in my house on this paper backdrop, like with no lights or anything on my phone. And then the next one came, and then the next one came, and it kind of just, kept coming from that. So it went from a hobby, like where I put all my energy into, well, my own energy, like when I say my energy, I'm like, I've got like mum energy and then me and then, work energy. But I was putting it all into that and I was loving it and I just kept doing it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, just try to keep it real, post what I like, when I like it. If I don't, not do it, But it gradually turned into regular work. But I didn't look at it as work because I still had my job. So I was like, this is my job. Posting a picture for someone wasn't work to me. There was much more to it than I know now that there's much more to it, but back then I didn't, and it just like gradually then got more and more and more. And I knew that I wasn't happy in work still. I was still having, headaches all the time and not feeling great, going because I felt like I needed to go rather than I wanted to go. And then, so I did that for 2 years. And I was constantly well and then sick and then well and then migraines. And then it was just really tough. And then this year, February 22, I handed in my notice because I had enough work to kind of keep me going, and I was like satisfied that I was going to do okay, and I left my legal job. I know. So now it's actually nearly been a year of no stable salary, driving everyone mad still, obviously, because when you don't have that regular income, like it's tough. But it kind of spurs you on, and you're like, that it's there, and you can do it, and it's just keeping at it and just keep going. It's amazing.
It's so inspiring to see, because obviously the last time that we chatted, you were in that space of like you were working full time as a legal person, but I could see that you're just like, I want to do this full time. But it's like, it is such a, like, to have such a stability, a job, the money that you're earning, the life that you've built, and then to then go into something that's so unconventional. And it's a hard, you know, because it's very, I'd say the barrier of entry is very low, but it's very hard to actually be a high quality person and get the brands that you're getting. Yeah. And in terms of like your first brand deal, like, did you know how to price? Did you know how to, like, how did you know what to do? Or did you just kind of, it was like a DIY kind of approach?
It was a DIY, although I had met some friends in the industry, like, so like other influencers and content creators who I chatted with. And I was like, someone's asked me to do this. Like, what do I do? And then they were like, oh, you know, you can do like a media kit, which is kind of like a CV, but it's like, you know, your pictures of what you've done before. And the first couple of times it was just a matter of me just saying yes. You know, when the brand was like, we have a couple of £100 for you, is, you know, would you do this? And I was like, yeah, like, why not? And then it just, you know, the more I did it, the bigger brands would come, and then they would give me their budget. And then I was like, oh, right, okay. You could see that kind of, then what they offered me, that kind of helped me set my baseline. So, and then just from there, I've had like so many people help me though, like, you know, other creatives, like it's all like word of mouth and like sharing and like networking, being friendly and stuff. And it's been, so many people have helped give me a wee push, you know, when I needed it. So.
And how do you balance the social media aspect? So like, it started off as a project for you and your creative outlet. Like, has your relationship changed now that you're a professional content creator? And like, does it still feel as creative in the way that when it started out?
It does. However, it's more, it can be a little bit stressful, a little bit like when you're doing something for someone else, you want to do it really well. And you have like, you know, high expectations of yourself, and you're like, you know, I want to do amazing on this. And you can't really control what other people think of your work, you know, because you do it yourself in your own little space, and then you publish it to so many people, and they could be like, oh, you know, not online that day, or so it can be stressful in that way for me when I do have a job on, because I'm like, oh, I want to post at the right time, and you know, I want people to like it, but that's not always the way it goes. So over the past year, I've realized that if I post what I like, you know, it's more genuine. It comes across the way I am.
So I'd imagine, especially with like how social media feels like it's changed over the pandemic, like it's very different from 2019 to 2023, you know. And have you ever, like, how do you manage your mental health with it, in terms of, is there a balance, and like, does that ever affect how you see yourself?
I only follow people that make me feel good, that inspire me, that, you know, I'm actually quite strict with who I personally follow, or like what kind of things I personally follow, because if I want to look for something, I can go and look for it, but I don't necessarily want them always popping up. And I think I just try and handle it that way, like, you know, limit myself to what I'm allowing come into my feeds and stuff. And then if I want to go see, you know, support someone or go do something, I'll just Google, like, search them and go and do it. So that is a way of like me controlling, because I know that I remember not 10 years ago, say like 5 years ago, people like posted pictures of food and like dinner and like didn't care what it looked like. There was no aesthetic. Whereas now it's like curated. So actually you'll see in my work, sometimes it goes from created to absolutely crazy, like just random stuff, because there's times where I'm like, no, I don't want this to look like, you know, obviously I want it to be a piece of art, but like there's sometimes where I'm like, no, I want to post this, and it might mess up the way it looks, but I'm just going to do it, and I just do it. and it just comes in and out of that.
And that's a fun relationship to have, and it kind of ties into like why you started in the first place, you know. And I think it's very inspiring to hear that you're still holding on to your values, you know, because it is like, would you call yourself an influencer, or like how would you identify?
Well, I am an influencer. I create content for digital, but it also has changed now because I've been doing content for like stills and like emails and websites. You know, it's much more than I classify myself as a content creator because I'll create different types of content for different platforms. It could be social media, but it doesn't always have to be social media. It could be a magazine or an article. I do like a lot of that kind of things, you know, or them things. So and also when it comes to influencing, I don't want to make people think that they need to have something that they don't, or like, you know, it's a very fine balance, and I think that's why I'm strict about who I follow as well, because I don't want to be pushing things on people for, you know, I think it's just the way I think about it. I think because it started off as me being like that, like solely about me and like my creativity. I'm just trying to keep that going and not, you know, it's easy for a brand to come and say, oh, we have this amount of money. We want you to sell certain things. I don't do that. I always know that the next thing's going to come around. I'm like, if I say no to this, it's okay because something will come from it. Like me being genuine, I'll work with the brands that I want to work with or that I like feel a connection to. So it's a tough juggle, but I do it. And I have like screen time and stuff on my phone. So like since the new year, I've like at 9:30 my phone just goes into like do not disturb, and I try and read then. My sister got me a Kindle for Christmas, so I've been doing those reading. But so I do, you know, try and take time off it, but not like sometimes I just want to go on and scroll. So I try not to be too strict with it.
And in terms of creating the content, like, did you know how to do that before you started, or has it just kind of been like you're figuring it out as you go along?
Figured it out as I went along, like, yeah. But I suppose following people who inspired me, and like, you know, even like movies or like artists, musicians and stuff, I would have been like, oh, that would be cool. Like, if I did this, it's just like inspirations, then I'm like, oh, how could I portray that, or how could I like dress like that, or like dress like that feel. It's for me it's like dressing how I feel, because there's times where I don't want to get dressed up, but there's times where I do, and like but it's usually based on my feelings at the time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. But the way that you express yourself is through your clothes. Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting mindset to see that as art. And then you post your art, and then people connect to you in that way. And you're almost like starting a conversation with people.
It's incredible. This is why, like, it's so hard for me to say that, you know, I've left my legal job and my new job is as a content creator, because it's just, I don't know, I just didn't think it would ever happen. Never thought that I would be doing this at all. Never. And it's just happened that way. So, but I'm happy about it.
It's interesting because I've been interviewing a lot of people in terms of their creative process, and I interviewed 2 people last week. One's a comedian boxer, one's a musician, and they have a similar story in the sense of like they never put pressure on this to be something. Yeah. You know, it came from pure passion and not expecting outcomes from this. And it seems like that's how your brand has been able to create it, because you're like, I'm doing this for me because I love it, not how it looks and, you know, what it means to be that. But it's like you've just taken one step in front of each other and you're like, does that feel good to me?
Yeah. Like, I actually don't look back on any of the work that I've done over the past year or two in this like field and think, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that, or that's not really me, or it's so that also helps going forward, because then I look back and I'm like, I still relate to all of that stuff, and I'm not annoyed that I said something, or like I told people, because there's so many people on that platform. I shared something with them. I don't feel bad about it at all. So it's definitely it's just good for me.
And do you feel coming at it older than when you started law? Like, do you feel like that aids in your benefit of like, you're coming at it, you've already had a career, and you have a family and you've got responsibilities? Like, do you feel like that's helped you be grounded in your values?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think that it got to the stage with law that I wasn't loving it. I love it, but I wasn't loving the job. And I think that so having a monthly salary come in, and having a good salary come in every single month isn't the be end and like it isn't the be all and end all. Like, it's not worth your health, and it's not worth getting to see your family as much as you want, or your friends, or like the headaches and stress. It's really not worth it. And then it gave me the time, taking that step gave me the time to like, when I first left my legal job, I was like, got all this time, but it slowly was eaten up, but you feel like, yeah, you feel like, not like, what am I doing here? I'm just chilling, I'm working, but like, it's taken up by so much. You just yeah.
Do you enjoy being self-employed? Like, was that initial scary? And like, did you figure out how, like, do you feel like you're at a point now where there's balance versus when you started, like, quit your job fully a year ago?
No. I feel like, well, it's only been 1 year, so like, I'm early days, still learning every day, every month. And I guess like, it's hard, it scares the life out of me, even now. Sometimes I'm like, oh, am I going to have any work? Or am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? And it's worked so far. But I feel like, because I have more time now to do it, and like to be genuine in it, and like put effort into it, that it's working. It's so hard. It's tough, like, especially, although what I do love is being able to manage my own time. So if I'm feeling unwell, I do not feel bad about having a bed day, or not getting dressed. So whereas when I worked for someone else, I always had that fear of like letting them down. So now I can manage my own. So even if I have something to do, I can work around it, or I can rearrange.
And what's the industry like in Belfast? It seems like you're based here, but you have like kind of like an international client base. How has that been? And yeah, what's it like in Belfast, and what's it been like going to all these different places?
Actually, I do less in Belfast than I do everywhere else, which is surprising. But I think with COVID, because I started during COVID, at the beginning of COVID, everything was online anyway. So it didn't matter what country you were in. And then I think, because everything was online, we were like chatting to people online. You made friends in different places online, because everyone was at home. So that probably helped, because then when we came out of like restrictions and lockdown and stuff, I was able to meet those people, or like travel, or like the brands that I've been working with, they were like, right, let's meet up. So it's like an international, it's definitely not UK or Belfast based, which is kind of great. I love it.
What misconceptions do you think people make about you and what you do?
Even before my own thoughts of what a content creator was, is not what the actual job entails. So initially I thought it was like, taking a picture of your outfit, like, and posting it. That's it, or planning to do that, like planning outfits to go and shoot or whatever. But I find that it's actually not like, well, my job isn't really like that because I wear how I feel. So if I don't want to go and shoot something, there's no point me going and doing it because it's not going to be like, yeah, it's not going to translate. That's it. So I was like actually really nervous when I started doing it. That like, what are people going to think? Like, I'm trying to be an influencer because I wasn't trying to influence anyone into doing anything. I was just doing it for me. So I'm like, how do you get that across? And I think then by me sticking by like my own values, it has come across. And then that's my brand. Like, I've been able to build upon that, So yeah, people think influencers just want to, get you to buy stuff. But it's not really about that. And also it's hard to figure out the difference between an influencer and a content creator. Because I'm sure there are people who literally only influence, I don't know, and then only create content, whereas I'm kind of a mixture. I give my own like thoughts and stuff on things, but and then love like the creative, like the styling and like the process behind. There's so many things that I would never have thought before that goes into a shoot, or like fashion week. Fashion week, it's fashion month. It's twice a year, and it's more than a month because it's like there's men's fashion week, there's couture, and then there's women's. But I kind of like love brands in each of them. So it's like it's like a month and a half, 2 months really, twice a year. And it's when brands will like showcase their collections for the upcoming seasons, or, like networking events with other creatives or people who work in PR or the brands themselves. So you can go and like visit showrooms, like see loads of like clothes and stuff, or you can go to shows and like sit on a catwalk, which I can't believe happens. And for that, then how does this work? So that is the nice bit. So that's the bit that I enjoy. But then the work, how I work, that is my week of work or my month of work, is the brands will want to dress me. So they'll want to, brands that I work with usually though, will be like, oh, do you need it? Would you like to pick anything to loan for Fashion Week? And most of the time it is a loan. So that's another misconception, that people think that, all those designer bags and expensive clothes are that person's. It doesn't always work like that. So for the sustainability aspect, I loan a lot. There are some pieces that I like would love and I'm like, yes, please, or like save up to buy myself, but a lot of it is loaned. So you will dress for the week in whatever outfits you want and attend the dinners, attend the shows. There will be photographers there, and I take the pictures myself, or like my friends who I'm with will take pictures of me and then we'll post them, and then they will lead to like magazine articles, or like, people who are covering Fashion Week, fashion, beauty, and that's how it's a job for me, because I then get to showcase outfits, or I get to, go to a dinner that is a work dinner really, like you're chatting about like the vision of the brand, and like there's so many things. And also there could be like 10 shows in a day, and like no, so then you have to well, not, you don't have to. Some people can do 10 and do 10 different outfit changes, but I try to like do like one or two a day. So I'll like not do as many, you know, I'll not have as many looks. But I'll just wear what I really love for all of that day. Or if I'm going to a show that I really love and they dress me, I'll wear that all day because it's better. Sometimes I do have two, if there's two favourites in a day or whatever. And that's a lot of like running back to your hotel, changing in cabs, changing in the rain. Like, it's really, really crazy. And people don't see it. You know, it just looks so glamorous. But it's constant like running about, sweating, like crazy. But it's so fun.
And the shows themselves, like it always comes across like you're there for hours, but I'm sure it's over really quickly.
30 minutes in and out. So it's what, like 10 minutes probably of actual show. But you're in, the show will start, so you get your seats, and there's so many people there. It takes a while to get your seats and to find your seat. Some shows that they'll have people who bring you to your seat, depending on where you are. And then they'll have the show, which is usually like the length of a song. And then you'll leave and get to the next one, which starts a half an hour later across the country. Yeah, so there's like sometimes where you're in a cab for like 40 minutes, like, oh my goodness, we're late, but everyone's late. So the show doesn't start until everyone arrives. Well, most of the time.
Yeah. And in terms of your confidence, like your first fashion week, would you say that you're like an extroverted person, or like are you comfortable talking to people? And like, because that seems like quite an overwhelming situation to be in, and also you're in the fashion industry, which typically comes across like it's quite exclusive and like can be a bit intimidating.
I know. So that's like when I first got my invites to Fashion Week, I was like seeing them come into my emails and then just like ignoring them because I didn't think that I could do it. And then it was one of my friends, she was going, and she's done it many times. She was an editor and now she's a content creator. And she was like, look, just come, it'll be chill, come with me, you know, like I'll stay in the same hotel as me. You can come with me to things, or like do your own thing. It was very, very chill. And I just met so many lovely people. And so I can sit anywhere and not speak to anyone. Like I'm confident, like enough to just chill, take my time to myself, have dinner by myself, have a drink by myself. And that sometimes comes across wrong because in this industry you have to network. So networking for me is like, it can be socially draining. So it is tough. Sometimes you don't want, like there's times where you have 2 dinners in one night. And that's, you know, you cannot eat 2 dinners in one night. So you just have to go and like be really, you know, yeah, and like you have to switch it on before. And there's times where I've lay in the hotel room, been like, I'm not going to this show, or I'm too overwhelmed to go. And then I'll like phone JP and he'll be like, that's what you're there for, you love it, go. I'll get up, get dressed, go and love it, you know. So it's tough, but it's just the balance. But it is crazy. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Lots of changing outfits. Like even when I first get to Fashion Week, the first thing I have to do is unpack. And I'll have like, you know, all my shoes, my belts, my bags, and I like sort that all out in my room, hang everything up. And I'm like, right, I know where everything is. Everything's sorted. And then at the start of every day, you have to be like, right, what shows do you have? Where are they? How are you going to get in between them? What are you going to wear if you're going to change? And it's just so much. So it's very, very fast paced. But I'm very lucky in that I've met some really lovely friends, like actual friends, through this. So when I do Fashion Week, it's usually I'm comfortable to be like, oh, I don't know if I could do this, or you know, I'm actually just going to stay in my room tonight, or, you know, it's okay to do that. And my lovely group of friends are the same, and they know it, and the brands then that I work with know it also. So it all leads into each other.
And it seems like you've almost created your own. Again, it goes back to like the values that you started at the beginning, because you're obviously working with people that you're inspired by. You're not going to things that you don't want to go to, and you're also just being careful and selective of what you associate yourself with and the energy that you give.
Yeah, it all comes down to me feeling right to go. And like I can be so nervous before going, and like, you know, get there, and people are so friendly that you might not. I'm not like a big talker in that, like I wouldn't just sit and start a conversation with someone, but they start it with you. And then that's, you know, there's always someone there that you bump into or meet. This is great.
So it's so exciting. Like, it sounds like such an interesting job. And it's a non-traditional job. It's the polar opposite from what you came from.
Yeah.
With law, and like it's so admirable to see you make that jump, even though there's no safety net.
I know. But the safety net is that I can, if I wanted, I could go back to law, or I could get another job. You know, I know that like I'm always going to be able to do something. So if I need to, I will. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. But I'll always be able to know, I can always keep this as my outlet. I would love it to be my work for like the rest of, you know, because there's so many different parts to it. You never know what kind of area you're going to be working in, like doing an article for a magazine when I've not written ever, you know, or picking certain pieces from like for seasons and stuff. You know, there's so much creating to it, and do you know where it can go?
It has a richness of diversity of roles that you can create within yourself, and you are creating what you want to see.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
That's it. And then I still get to use like my structure. I like to structure things and like have things written down, and like plan and negotiating, and you know, all the businessy stuff is still there. It's just used in a different way. So I still get to do that as well. The legal stuff.
You don't take no shit from anyone.
No. People probably are like, oh, here she comes again. But yeah.
And do you find that you're able to express the things that you're passionate about? Like, because you're obviously, your brand's getting bigger. Has there been any times where like you're afraid to talk about something that's like really special to you?
Yeah, because I always think that not afraid. So if there's something I want to speak about, I do have to think like when I talk about it, or when I say what I say, like I don't want to annoy people. I don't want to go out of my way to annoy people, but I also have to be true to myself. So it's like finding the balance between, you know, going ham on someone, or, you know, it's a fine balance of doing both. But I love like helping, not helping, like if there's something that I can do that may help, like a situation or like diversity, I'll, you know, be doing that. I'll be like, oh, here's my friend, such and such, you know. I like to like, I suppose just not put it in people's faces, but sometimes you do have to. You have to do a post and you're like, look, you know, people are ignoring this and this is happening, and it's really hard because people that have such a big following, like social media is so strong, like so valuable in our day, that a lot can be done there. And obviously, like, there's so many things that I would like to do, but I know, you know, one step at a time. And also, I don't want to, no, I do, I want like everyone to be like culturally aware. I want everyone to be, but not everyone. It's just, it's very, very tough to like I don't know.
But it's also heavy when you like navigating between your creativity, sharing what you're passionate about, and then especially when it comes to diversity, like I'm excited to hear what that's like in your industry, but they're not easy conversations to have.
No.
And people tend to just put everything on you as if you're the spokesperson for.
Well, that's it. And there's times where I've received messages being like, oh, you should post about this. And I'm like, look, I can only post what's genuine to me. I can help in a way if, you know, I don't want to be someone that I'm not. So, but I also want to get my, you know, what I feel strongly about across, without pushing it down people's throats, because that's just not, I don't think it's helpful. Because if someone comes to me and says, oh, you should read this, you should think this, I'm like, no, I'll figure it out myself, or, you know, I'll go away and like do it. But I just like every now and again giving someone a wee, like just popping on a wee story, or, you know, of something that I've been thinking about, just so like it's, people are aware, and then they can go and do their own research if they want, or they can ask me questions if they want, and stuff like that.
Would you say that there is issues around representation and diversity in the space that you're in?
Yes, I do. Like, everything comes down to an algorithm on social media. So if there's more of one thing happening, then that's going to be seen by more people, because the algorithm is thinking, you know, it pushes that content to people, and there's less people of color, so it's harder to be seen. It's harder to get your content to the masses, or your views to the masses. So, but then I think it's who you surround yourself by as well, because I know that if I had something really important to tell people, that my friends would be like, you know, sharing that too, or being like, look, head over to Tanice and read something, or, you know, it's all about who you're surrounding yourself with, I think.
And it seems like you have a very supportive community as well that you've built with your brand.
Yeah. It's lovely. Very genuine.
But that comes to you.
I know, but like, I love other people being able to be, you know, being like, I don't know, like, asking questions or stuff. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. It's great.
Yeah. And how do you balance your family life, being married, your job? Does it feel like there's a flow, or like, how does that work?
It's a constant flow, because I think that because it started off not as a job, it included my family. So my husband was like helping me with stuff and like getting involved and stuff, and like help me set up things, and like I constantly, every single day, ask him, which picture do you like best, or what do you think, you know, because he's got that creative eye. I'm like, well, do you think that goes okay there, or like, it's they're just totally involved in it. And it's great because then I get to share it. So like, if I get clothes, I wear a lot of men's clothes, I get to share them with my children or my husband, and we just like, you know, share everything. And when it comes to like beauty, I get to share it with like friends or family, and like, so that's, I suppose that's how I would influence people, in that the things that I love, I share with them, rather than saying, you know, go buy it. I'm like, oh, here's one, you know, try that and see if you like it. So yeah, my whole family, my nanny, my mom, sister, like brother, everyone is involved. My friends, they all. It's just like a wee supportive team. So I don't actually. It's not separate. It's not.
Well, that's, I think, exciting and inspiring, because it means that you can scale it, and people are coming on your journey with you and your family.
Yeah.
As your kids grow up, like, what do your kids think about it? How do they feel?
They love it. Like, they're just so happy that I'm happy, and like because I'm getting to work with like brands that I loved before. They're like, when a package comes, or when I get to do like a post for them or something, they're like so proud, and like, Isaac is on every day. He's the first to like my pictures. He's got notifications on. He's so funny. Like an 8-year-old, like just waiting, you know, he's like, tell me when you're going to post. He's waiting for it, you know, and then he'll be like, Daddy, Logan, Mom's posted. And like, you know, like trying to get people. It's so funny. So supportive, but they love it. And they get to like travel and like have the little perks too. So
That's so wholesome. It's so wholesome. What is your definition of success for you now?
Being, I need to think about that, because I know that I have been successful in certain ways, but then like success is like, I'm not there yet. You know, like when I say like success, I'm like, not that I'm like thinking that I haven't done great, because I know I have, but it comes to like, there's so many different areas that come into it. So like my health, I mean, if I don't have my health, nothing, I'm not going to be able to work. I'm not going to be able to, you know, have fun with friends or family and stuff. So success to me, like when I look right now, I just want like a balance. I don't want to have loads of money. I want to be able to afford the things that I need, and I want to be able to get nice stuff sometimes, just like, you know, and I want to be well. And like, I know that there's ups and downs, just ride the wave. Like it'll go up, you'll be, you know, up and down. But yeah, success for me is having control of your balance. So being able to control family time, being able to, you know, when you want to have family time or when you need it, because it's different all the time. Or like when you need your friends, you can, you know, do that. Or like, you know, yeah. Don't know if I answered that really, but
And like, what advice would you give to someone who is starting out in this industry?
be yourself, be genuine. I think that it's actually really noticeable when someone isn't being themselves. Like, there's, you know, I feel like it's just the closer that you are to your true self. And like, I mean, there's times where I feel like a completely different person. I'm like, oh, I want to be like a fancy girl today, or like want to wear a tracksuit today, and like, I don't want to do anything today. Don't want to have anything on my face. I just want to chill. Just be yourself, and then through that, like, the real stuff will come out. You know, it comes from that. I think, for me anyway.
And my last question is, what piece of advice would you have given your younger self?
Do you know what? I don't think I'm proud of like everything that I've went through, and it's been my journey, and it's helped me grow. And I think without doing some things, or without some things happening, I wouldn't be sitting here in this job today. So I suppose my piece of advice for my younger self would be like, don't think that you need to be in a certain place by the time you're 25 or 30 or 40, because now I know that, like, I'm 33 and I don't know where I'm going to be in my 40s. I could be doing something completely different, but I'm not worried about that. Whereas when I was younger, I was like, okay, I need a degree, and then I need a job, and then I need to get married, and like, I need a house, I need to get on the property ladder. Like, it was just, you know, you don't need to do any of that stuff. It will come if you just give yourself the space and time to do it.